Boom! Welcome to GrownDadBusiness, friends. Today, very special podcast with Dr. G, Dr. Deborah Gilboa, friend I met doing local Pittsburgh television. But what's really cool is she spoke all over the country. She's been on the Today Show, Good Morning America, the Doctors, Rachel Ray. She's been featured in Washington Post. But what's really neat is also she started off as a theater actor and went to Second City. We dig into it a little bit about that. Little quick blurb about Second City. You can listen to that blurb on patreon.com/Aaron Kleiber. Will be a special little bonus part. It'll be really exciting to learn about that. It's just fascinating that, now that she's a practicing, family doctor, but also has all kinds of resources on our website and things like that. But it was cool to pick her brain about my kids and talk about her 4 sons, literally 4 sons in middle school and high school. It's just crazy. But no, I just want to say thanks again. Go check out AskDrG.com. Really fun conversation today. But I also want to thank and give shout outs to everybody supporting on Patreon, patreon.com/Aaron Kleiber. It's a way to monthly support artists and creative people that you love, like me, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to put as much stuff as I can on there. You get podcast video. If you're watching this right now, thank you. You get to watch the video. And you can watch videos of my past guests, like Bob Saget, Tammy Pescatelli, Brad Williams, and also some bonuses. Like I said, the bonus with me and Dr. G talking about how going to Second City helped her parent, learning improv comedy, helping her parent. Pretty dope, because I feel like, good, comedy is helping me be a good parent. But so thank you, patreon.com/Aaron Kleiber for supporting on that. If you would like all the links, you can find them. Also, big shout out to my dude Kid Mental for the beats on the show. Go to kidmental.com. He also has a Patreon where you could be a beat junkie and get all kinds of beats and songs, custom theme songs. So go check out kidmental.com, my guy. Also, if you go check out GrownDadShirts.com, Kid Mental is also an incredible artist. Helped me design my Grown Dad shirts, GrownDadShirts.com. You can save 15% at GrownDadShirts.com with coupon code GDB15. And like I'm wearing right now my Be Kind, Be Funny shirt. There's some fun hip-hop inspired dad shirts and some other funny things on there. So GrownDadShirts.com, coupon code GDB15. And I could not tell you about my shirts without telling you about Ink Division. Go check out ink-division.com. They print all my apparel, but they service nationwide. And during the pandemic, they're still trying to help out entrepreneurs and entertainers, musicians, comedians. Go hit them up. Tell them I sent you. And your first bulk order of apparel, you can get some money off. Just let them know that Aaron from Grown Dad Business sent you. Ink-division.com. Also, huge shout out to Mary Mac. Go check out MaryMacPodcast.com. She recently sent me this month a box of baked things and cooking things. She's incredible. It's like the aunt I never had that just bakes and bakes and makes you eat. She's wonderful. I got my favorite chicken rub from Mary Mac. That's how I make my wings. My daughter is baking everything. I mean, it's such good stuff. The beer bread recipe. It's literally with 3 meals a week. So her podcast, In the Kitchen with Mary Mac, MaryMacPodcast.com, at Mary Mac Bakehouse. Go check her out. I'm thinking we need to work on like a box, like a grown bake box. That's what we're gonna do. Not grown baked box. Like that would be like if I had a cannabis sponsor. But I do have a shout out for my favorite CBD need sponsor, thehivedistro.com. You can find all your CBD needs on there. CBD is the non-psychoactive ingredient of hemp and cannabis, not the THC. I personally love using Elixicure. It's ointments, that has CBD infused ingredients. Really helpful for arthritis, any back pain, shoulders. My wife loves it. We prefer lavender. But there's also all kinds of other things. There's bath bombs. There's coffee on there. A bunch of different CBD products, all selected. TheHiveDistro.com. And with the coupon code GROWN, GROWN, you can save 20%. $75 or more, you get free shipping. Tons of stuff that I can endorse on there. Like I said, I also use their man butter, which is organic deodorant. I love it. So thank you for everybody who supports. Go check out these people that are so supportive and grab something. You guys, thank you so much once again. And hey, I just want to let you know, my Friday Night Live happy hour show will be coming back Friday. I'm literally looking it up. September 4th. It's the Friday of Labor Day weekend. I hope it rains so you can sit inside with me and have a happy hour. But it's kind of like going to be my season 2 premiere after a couple week break. So yeah, come back for that September 4th, Friday Night Live, streaming 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope. Gonna have dope guests for the season premiere of season 2 of that because, you know, I don't know when live performance is coming back. A couple here and there, outdoors. It's fun, but we'll see what happens. You guys enjoy the podcast with Dr. G and be kind, be funny. We're doing it.
GrownDad Business with Aaron Kleiber. That's my dad. Hello! Underpants? That is hilarious. You should mouth to rate and review this podcast while my daddy will go into a deep depression. GrownDad Business with Aaron Kleiber. Yeah.
Boom. Dr. G, welcome to GrownDad Business.
Thank you. Hi.
This is, you know, I was thinking about it. This is like episode 207. First doctor, I think. First doctor.
Wow. That's because we're terrible to talk to.
No, I was thinking, I'm like, you know, I have this podcast called GrownDad Business, and it's kind of about kids and comedy, and sometimes it's serious. Never got serious with a doctor, but you're not that serious of a doctor, so. I
mean, I am seriously a doctor. I'm still paying off my med school loans 20 years later, but so that's serious.
Yeah, I know. But I'm paying off degrees that I no longer use also.
Yeah. But well, I'm definitely still using this. I definitely try to make my patients laugh more than I make them cry. So
yeah, I know. So okay, this is so I think I was you're typing your name in, and I was like, I think I was like putting in my phone like, should be Dr. G or Deb G. What? So Dr. G is the thing. Like it
is the thing. It started at my office. So I'm at a federally qualified health center here in Pittsburgh in Squirrel Hill. And people would call the front desk when we first opened. I was going out doing talks around to let people know the health center existed, just do some public service announcement kind of talks like, you know, here's high blood pressure and why it's terrible. And people would call the health center having seen me talk or read something that was in the paper, and they would ask for Dr. Jill. And so our front staff just started saying Dr. G. And that was 14 years ago, and it stuck.
Yeah. I also kind of laughed too because I was trying to Google you because people have a hard time Googling. They're like Aaron Keebler. I'm like, whatever.
I love those cookies.
Yeah, but no, I also was trying to spell it's Debroah.
Yes,
it's not Debroah.
No, it's biblical.
My parents Deborah.
Were also serious.
I put that in my phone because I like Deborah. I like that. Nice. But no, I originally we met being guests on Pittsburgh Today Live, the morning show.
Yeah.
And, you know what was so funny to me was that like you were more funny than you were a doctor. Like I think for the first like 20 minutes of talking to you, I'm like, why are you on the show? You're not a doctor. You're fun, like a fun mom. But you have 4 boys.
I do. Although I have to say now I have one grown adult son. He's 18 as of a few months ago. And then a 15-year-old who's turning 16 this month. look out on the roads, and a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old.
I'm just taking a moment of silence.
I got to tell you, people should be paying for your video streaming service just to see the stunned look on your face right now.
I know. Yeah, you can watch the video on patreon.com/Aaron Kleiber.
Yeah, because if you're only listening to this, you missed out on an amazing look.
Right. Because having 3 kids, like I have 3 little ones, like under 12. My 12-year-old at this point, my 12-year-old oldest girl, she's might as well be 30 with a master's degree. I mean,
she's like your co-parent. Yeah, totally.
Well, okay, that's one thing that's super helpful. She reached a point where she's super smart and responsible, but also now she's like, excuse me, I pay for this loft apartment. Like, who are you? Like,
Right. So when kids are like elementary school, in that solidly 7 or 8-year-old, Dad, what are you doing? Can I come too? Can I help? It's like having a puppy, right? They meet you at the door. They want to eat the chip in your hand or in your mouth.
Yes.
They want to watch you every second. They don't care if they're watching you pee. Like, they just want to be with you. And then puberty is this experience of transitioning to owning a cat, who you walk in and they're like, who gave you the keys? Oh, but wait, before you leave, could you open that can of tuna and leave it on the counter? Because, right, and like sometimes they want you to pet them and purr and cuddle, and sometimes they're going to hiss and scratch, and they don't even know which it'll be until they do it.
You are a real doctor. You are that is exactly. Oh my God, the cat. I'm going to use that as a bit. I think.
Well, and the problem for parents is that we come to the door for like the first solid 3 or 4 years of our kids' puberty and adolescence expecting the puppy.
Right.
And we're hurt when it's not the puppy.
Yeah.
And the kid is like, what the hell are you hurt about? I'm still the same person, right? Like, even if they don't understand, they know get the sense they're doing something that disappoints us, but they're just being them.
Oh my, okay. Every 5 or 6 minutes, we're going to dig into another one of my kids, and you're going to give them a personality profile. And also an animal likeness.
Awesome. So never have them listen to this. But
so
great.
far, my 12-year-old is an attitudey kitten. And my 5-year-old, we'll get to her later. She's already all the wild animals. No, that's having there's so many things I want to ask you right now. Yeah, no, for people listening, like, it's so funny when people say like, oh, you're a doctor. Yeah, no, you practice in Pittsburgh. And
right, I'm a family doc, so I'm an MD. I'm the person you come see if you have, when your kid needs a well child check, or their asthma acts up, or you don't feel good. Right now, I'm the person that you either see on telemedicine, because you have something that I can look at but don't need to actually lay hands on the patient, or you screw up your courage and put on your mask and come by yourself to my office, or if really necessary, we're making house calls, which is safer for patients. So we're kind of trying to do it in all the different ways to see what's safest and best right now.
So are you looking at a lot of kids with poison ivy on Zoom?
Yes, a lot. I can do that visit in 2 minutes, 53 seconds. Like,
yeah.
Soup to nuts.
That's so funny. You're like, is this probably a poison ivy call? Okay, 3 minute max. Yeah.
Set your timer.
It is exciting that like a couple years ago, we got an old farmhouse with some woods in the back. And this was finally the year that like my kids were like, we have woods, like we should run through them. So now like I said, we'll get to the 5-year-old.
Don't lose your sister.
Yeah, really. No, we're worried about the 5-year-old staying and living in the, like, she's like the barefoot, just running through the woods, whatever. Okay. Anyway. But no, I said you're super legit and I'm excited. We're already 100 minutes into the show. Thanks for talking with me. Cause you've done like the Today Show and Good Morning America and The Doctors.
Which seems like any doctor should get to do The Doctors, right? Like you're in the club.
Yeah. I mean, we're on the list of The Doctors.
I'm really excited to be here. I had such a good time with you that day on PTL, and I've been following your stuff ever since. And your approach to work and family that is like, hey, it's all really important, but not so serious is really helpful. Yeah.
I feel like I want to have you on as a guest, but I also like don't want this be an hour consult. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, am I okay? Am my kids okay? Are me and my wife okay? Like, it's basically like everything.
That is the subtext of pretty much every question I'm ever asked.
I know. and especially too, I love also too, like how you approach like family and kids. It's so much a mental thing too. And you know, my sister is she always gets mad at me because I always get her title wrong. But she's basically like the school counselor for a school district.
Google her. It'll say right there on the website.
Maybe, I don't know. But no, I mean, she also is also posting so much. I mean, that's her job, posting so much like, you know, positive mental, you know, things for kids, especially now. And it is a weird thing. Like all summer long, you know, we're sitting around and like, are we okay? Like, you know, like I don't know, how are your boys? Like you have 4 teenage boys. How are they dealing with like not seeing a lot of friends and just like? And
I mean, there is the advantage of I live with a pack, right? Like they themselves, they have each other. I think they might still, because we have a little home in the city, and I think they might still be like alone time. What is that? How do I get that? And my eldest is actually moving away this Friday. He moves to another country. So that's been.
This is Deb. Doc, we got to break this down. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Wait.
I'm so excited for him. This has been his plan pre-pandemic. This has been his plan for about 3 years, and he made it happen. He graduated from Alderdice High School. So for your Pittsburgh listeners, this is an urban school, and he graduated from there. Graduated from there in March or June, depending on how you look at it. And he's going for a year-long leadership army readiness program in Israel, and then he will join the Israeli army. So he spent a year in high school, going to high school in Israel because he found a free program. Do you know how hard it is to argue with your kids when they find a free overseas program they can do? Anyway, he found that free program. He went for a year. He loved it. He said, I want to come back here after high school. And when kids go to Israel and move there and serve, college then, university then is free there. Yeah. Again, so hard to argue with an 18-year-old who says, but university would be free. And so he leaves this Friday, and he's set himself up. He's got his own bank account. He got all of the paperwork he needed to do. He's doing it.
I will say that, listen, just what you just told me and everybody else is a testament, honestly, is a testament to some sort of positive parenting. Because for your son to make that decision at 18, to like, you said Israel, not like Canada. You know what I mean? Like,
although you can't get in there from here now, but yes, I agree.
I mean, that is a huge deal. I mean,
it is. And I think one of the coolest things that I encourage parents, you know, one of the only group of people that I think it's still universally okay to rain down nastiness about are teenagers. Right? We have this sort of cultural assumption, and people might think that I was doing it when I was talking about how kids go from being a puppy to being a cat. Yeah. But really, we are, you know, when you're in, I don't know if you remember back this far, but with your youngest, you're in the hospital room, or even your oldest, when the baby's been born. And one of the first things people say to you is, well, just wait till she's a teenager. Right?
Oh,
I mean, this kid isn't 13 hours old.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait till she's 13 years old.
Oh, yeah. It's the number one thing that irks me because, you know, every time I perform, I sit there and talk about my kids for an hour. So I talk about my little kids, and it's like 1 out of every 5 people in line is like, you wait till they're teenagers. You just wait. And I'm like, I am waiting.
I'll tell you what, it has been the coolest experience of my parenting life to have teenagers. My youngest is about to turn 12, but I have faith in him too. They are so interesting and able, and they are way more globally aware and socially conscious and technically adapting and thoughtful than I was. You know, teenagers in the 1980s, maybe we are why teenagers have that rep, or maybe it was the 60s. I don't know who to blame.
You're right. We were idiots.
They're great. And you get, as they get older, one of my favorite things to congratulate people about is baby's first paycheck. Because, you know, we're all like, oh, your kid took their first steps. They went first day of school. When they get their first, you get that phone call that's like, hey, Dad, what's direct deposit? And my boss says I should set that up. That's a win. Like all of those teenage milestones are like proof of concept for your parenting.
You're right. I had a friend that I grew up with that listens, Nate, who I grew up with from Still Valley. He just posted his son's first paycheck, and that's the first time I ever saw somebody celebrate that. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah.
Dang, because
he's like, I want 15-year-old son made $600.
Right. When I speak, one of the first things I'll ask a group of parents often, like first words out of my mouth is, if you could wave a magic wand right now,
yeah,
what words do you want to be able to use to describe your child 20 years from now?
Ooh.
Somebody says to you, Aaron, how are they doing? And now your kids are 25 through 32.
Right.
What's the first word or two? And people give me great words and we talk about it. And I have a reason. I have a word that I always get that I'm looking for, and it pushes my next point. But there's always a person, usually a man, back in the room, arms crossed, who says, employed. And I endorse that 100% because I also want to be able to describe my child as earners.
Yeah. Yeah, I always, and I get scared about that. Let's dig into our psyche. No, sometimes I get scared. It's like at my house, we have this balance of everything that daddy does creatively makes money. Like I try, that's my job. Like my job is, but it is a, it's a disconnect, but it's not. Like my kids, like I've said to my kids, I'm like, daddy has to tell jokes for 30 minutes to pay for this, like,
and they're like, that does not sound hard. I'll tell you what, my college boyfriend, he grew up in Mount Lebanon, and we go over because I came here to Pittsburgh to go to college, to go to Carnegie Mellon. So every Sunday night I got invited to Sunday dinner. Right?
Yeah.
But it was the theater department. So, it wasn't so fancy. Anyway, his dad, who created the field of pediatric dental anesthesiology, before him, they didn't put kids to sleep for scary dental procedures, and afterwards they could.
Oh.
He used to say, if you want to be the best in your field, make it up. And I totally took that to heart. But it puts your kids and my kids in this position of being like, being a grown-up doesn't look so hard. You just do something that's fun and people will pay you for it. And you're like, whoa, it might not be that simple.
Right.
Go work at Baskin Robbins.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, so there is that thing where it's like, we're like talking about my kids being employed. Like, my daughter, super, I'm like looking around. I'm like, cause I don't want to talk about their life. Like, like it's ours also, that's a good thing, right? Doc G?
It's a hard thing. You're totally right.
Yeah. But like
you own them, but do you own them? Not really.
I mean, early on, my daughter's literally like, where's the best school I can go to for math? And we're like, and stay at home. And we're like, CMU. And she's like, okay, done. Like, I'm 11. That's what
I should warn you that my son, the one who's moving away day after tomorrow, said the same thing. At 11, he was like, we lived 6 blocks from Carnegie Mellon. And he's like, I'm going to go there because I want to live at home forever. So that may shift.
You mean to Israel?
Well, 7,000 miles away seemed far enough to him. I mean, take from that whatever you will.
Well, that's the thing. It's like sometimes your kids will say like, they'll say something like that. And like we look at our oldest and we're like, oh my gosh, like engineer, mathematician, like she could work for NASA, right? Mm-hmm. Like she was 8 years old doing long division by herself in her room for fun, For fun, right? That's where you really got it. So weird. That's very foreign to me. That's my wife. My wife's the CFO of the family. I don't get it. But like, and we're like,
oh, honey, how many jokes do I have to tell to pay for this?
Yes. and then I'm like, and then she's like, well, I think being a teacher or like a veterinarian, we were like, no, like you think about that, but then you're like, then on the other side of things, my son, since he's 2 years old, he's like, I want to be a comedian or a cartoon character. And we're like, no, so there is that balance.
I had this amazing experience that was really enlightening, but not at the time. At the time, it was just infuriating. Yeah. I'm 17 years old. I'm a senior in high school. I go to my parents and I say, here's the list of colleges I want to apply to. They all have great theater departments. And my dad says, you can't go to college for theater. And I said, you told me I could, my whole life, you told me I could do whatever I wanted as long as it made me happy. And he looked me straight in the eye, and without a trace of irony, he said, I lied. I was like, shock, betrayal, 17-year-old trauma ensues. You'll note I did actually go to college for theater, but I did also finish in 4 years in the degree I started in and got jobs. So, we came to some sort of middle ground understanding.
Is it a point now where, like, as a dad, like if you're watching the video, you see me made a face where I'm just like, oh man, he's kind of not wrong.
Not wrong. Like that's what I mean. No trace of irony. He was like, right. I mean, that seemed like what I was supposed to say at the time, but I 100% did not mean it.
Right.
And I was shocked at the trade. And then having known him pretty well for 17 years was like, oh, but I know what matters to you. And I found a loophole. But, and that loophole was that I had gotten a free ride to Southwest Missouri State University.
Yeah.
And my dad wanted me to go to a name school. So I was like, so I'm going for theater. Do you want me to go here or any of these schools?
Right.
In any case, so, be careful of the kids you raise because they really know you as well as you know them.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, like my kids know that, like, we want them to follow our dreams. I mean, literally, daddy makes people laugh. And I have a room covered in Star Wars posters. Things are fine. Like they're like, no, daddy's doing, but they also, it is funny that, like, we basically realize that, like, family and parenting is all just, it's a game of balance. It's like a balance beam. It's like a seesaw, or like, what are those things that, like, at the circus, there's like a,
oh yeah, there's like a barrel in the middle and you gotta.
It's like, and we're your friend and I'm your dad. And like,
I'm fun and you're in trouble.
Yeah. And, I'm thankful that now I'm like, we're just, I'm telling you about our parenting history, but like my wife and I, we come from like youth ministry. We come from, my wife worked with kids, children's ministry for a decade, and I worked with teenagers, I have a degree in adolescent ministry and counseling. And so like,
so don't worry, you will use that degree again. 100%.
No, and that's the thing. Yeah, I know. No, the thing is, it's like, we did learn that balance of working with kids because, you got to kind of be an authority, but you also are there to, like, help them and, like, help them through, working with kids and their parents and, things like that. And
so let me push back on one idea that you said, that, like, balancing between being their friend and being the parent. Yeah. You're never their friend. I think what you mean, tell me if you disagree. I think what you mean is showing empathy and having boundaries.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Right? So they don't need you as a friend.
Right.
Even if they have no friends, they don't need you as a friend. You'll just mess them up if you focus on being their friend. And so one of the greatest things about having teens is that sometimes they communicate in memes. And when my kids all have to wait till they're 13 to get social media, because I'm strongly in the running for meanest mom ever, and I'm not going to let it go now.
Over here.
That's an easy one. That's an easy box to check to get meanest parent ever. And so he turns 13, he gets on Instagram and he starts sending me memes and in our Instagram messaging back and forth. And he sends me one that says, if you raise your kids, you get to spoil your grandkids. But if you spoil your kids, you might have to raise your grandkids.
Woo!
And I was like, yeah. And I wrote back, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Like, that's what I'm doing. But I really like how that sums it up, because it's so tempting to want to be friends with them because you like them so much.
Yeah.
And it's great. If you like your kids a lot of the time, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Is it sometimes, like I say, like, is it okay that I want my 9-year-old son to be able to drink with me? Like
it is, but you have to wait, right? Yeah. To wait to get 2 marshmallows if you don't eat one now. And that delayed gratification is so worth it. You get to hang out with your adult kids and you can be friends with them then.
Yeah.
If you don't give in to the urge to be friends with them now.
Right. Yeah. That makes so much sense. You are right. I mean, it's a thing where, like I always tell on the discipline side, or not discipline, but like that,
consequences and boundaries. Yeah.
Consequences and boundaries. I like all your keywords. I don't have any of my counseling keywords anymore. I don't know none of this anymore. I'm just like, your kid's being an asshole.
And then you're like, oh, boundaries, consequences, darn.
Yeah. No, my wife and I have a joke that, because, she worked with little kids, and, we would always see like younger kids, like, however, single digit kids. And we'd always say, like, you don't handle this now at 4. They're not going to be very fun at 14.
I had the most amazing experience. I was with my oldest when he was 2, and we were in New York City visiting somebody, and she and I took our 2 little ones to the playground. And this is a like New York City. You'd expect to see this in a movie. Metal slide, tall stairs, concrete underneath, like death trap playground. Kids are having a blast. My 2-year-old screws up all his courage, climbs to the very, very top of this slide. I'm, a little ways away, but I see him. He's trying to figure out how to do that very complicated maneuver where your legs are on the steps, but you want your butt in front of you and your legs in front of that. Yeah. And that's hard to figure out. So it's taken him a minute. And some other girl that we haven't seen before this moment in our scene rushes up the stairs behind him, doesn't want to wait, and pushes him head over tea kettle down the slide. And I caught it. Like he bounced off the slide, but didn't hit the concrete. Yeah. And I caught him, and I looked at this little girl whom I had never met in my life and said, no, we don't push. And her mother came over out of nowhere. I mean, might have flown, swept this girl up into her arms, held her against her chest, and looked at me and said, we don't use that word. And I thought, did I swear at that little bee?
Yeah, right.
Right, like I played it back in my head, like I wanted to, maybe I did. Yeah. And in my adrenaline-soaked moment. And I was like, no, I really didn't. And I must have given this woman a really puzzled look. And she covers the little girl's ear and goes, and I relaxed. I just smiled. And I was like, oh, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't mad. Because whatever is about to happen in whatever almost happened in my family, things in her family are going to be so much more hellish.
Yeah. It's almost like it's like a funny thing that we laugh at as like, we'll see kids anywhere like that in public, and we'd be like, no, in 10 years, they're going to be a blast,
Yeah, good luck.
And so I'm glad I feel like I'm not wrong about that. It's like, it seems like sometimes like we're being hard on our toddler, but we're like, well.
I heard a preacher give a sermon years and years ago on Father's Day, and he talked about how he said most of his arguments with his teenagers, he said, I won when they were 3 and 4 and 5 years old. And he said, it's not that they didn't push back as teenagers. It's just that because of how I'd always raised them, they were not shocked when my rules were still the rules, no matter how they behaved.
Yes.
And right. So like, basically, yeah. So you're setting up this structure where you're saying, you can count on me. And most of the parents I know worry the most about the situations that our kids will get into as teenagers when they're like all legs and no brains, right? They're like all reaction and oxytocin and dopamine and no thoughtful judgment, which is developmentally normal. We're worried about their behaviors, and we're not wrong. I was just talking to my almost 16-year-old last night and saying, you're in the healthiest decade of your life. If you can make it to your second decade of life, the only things that mostly kill people in their second decade of life are bad luck and bad choices.
Yeah.
So we spend so much time talking to them and worrying about the choices that they'll make and the luck that they'll have. So parents say to me, how do I make sure that if my kids ride home from a party as drunk, even though I've said, don't go to that party and don't be drinking, they'll still call and get a ride and not die. And the way that we do that is by showing our kids that they can count on us when the going is rough. And that doesn't mean we'll do what they want or what they ask. It means we'll do what we said we were going to do, even when they're the ones making it rough.
Yes.
Do you go to Kennywood?
Yeah.
So I love roller coasters, but anybody who's ever been on a real roller coaster, one where like there's a harness or a lap belt that latches, you have this experience, right? You sit down, you put all your stuff in the bin, you sit down, you latch everything, and then you wait for some 16-year-old kid to walk down and check, right? And give a thumbs up, and then some 16-year-old up in the controls booth gives a thumbs up, and off you go. But every adult, after the kid checks, what do?
We check.
Right, after. And so they've already checked. So are you checking because now you want to bust it open so you can have a really exciting ride?
Nope.
Right. You're checking to make sure it really, really will hold you. Well, here's an image
bad luck.
Here's an image that's always helped with my kids. When I put a boundary around them, they check. They rock it and they push and they pull to see if it will bust open. It looks like they're doing it to try and open it, but it's usually not because they're hoping they can bust it open. It's really because they're hoping we can hold them. And that they'll be safe. But it looks like them trying to get us to change the rule, like they're us trying to wear us down. 1% of the time they make an argument and we go, oh, you know what? You're right. This isn't a reasonable rule in this situation. I'll change it. But 99% of the time, we just have to hold. That's what they want to know.
Yeah, I keep mentioning my little one. She's the one who we always, I call her Little Fire Cat.
That seems like one of the nicer things you could say.
Yeah, little Fire Cat. And my mom is the original. She's the Fire Cat Senior, and my grandmother is the original Fire Cat. So all these little ladies have tons of fire, and it waited until my third child. And she's the one where, in that way, like checking the seats, checking the belts.
Yeah.
We always refer to Jurassic Park when the velociraptors were testing the fences.
Yes, totally.
So my little one, every time I go to my wife, I go, she's testing the fences, clever girl. Like, yeah, she's always testing the fences. Like, how about this? She's the one that likes to test the fences, that likes to shake the harness, Yeah. It's a blast. And she's the one we're saying, like, what else can we do now so that now that she's 5, that when she's 15, she doesn't make us go crazy.
Or do something that's really, truly damaging, because it's so hard to have the energy to be consistent like this when they're younger. But I swear to you, it pays off when they're older and you put a boundary in place and they argue with you twice instead of 400 times.
Yes. It's so funny during the pandemic at home, people are like, oh, you're not acting in anything. You're not on the road, doing comedy. What are you so busy with? I'm like, finally helping my wife with 3 kids. Like, we're able to like paint a room now together, like we're able to do some things that, we can double team this, it's, and what you said is being consistent is work.
Oh, exhausting.
So much work. And, one of the things we do say, please, Dr. G, validate us. One of the things we say too is like, every once in a while, our kids will tear up, they'll cry because we're reminding them of the boundaries. See, I'm remembering.
There
right?
you go.
We're reminding them of our boundaries, of our, and they'll get upset. And one of the things we say is, look, we love you. I do not want to yell at you, but we're trying to make you a good adult. We literally have said that to our kids, like, listen, this is, like when they get attitude or nasty with somebody, we're like, and they're like, whoa, we're like, we want you to be a good adult. That's why we're correcting this now, And
when one of my sons was in first grade, I got a call from the principal, and it was my first call from the principal. And it turns out that in circle time, one of the girls in his classroom had popped up right in front of him. Like he was still sitting and she stood up right in front of him facing the other way, and he drummed on her bottom. And I don't think he'd have gotten in trouble if that's all that happened. To her credit, she turned around and pointed at him and said, no, the problem is some of the kids in the group laughed, so he did it again.
I just laughed.
Great. But he did it again after she said no.
Yeah.
And he goes to the principal calls me. And you're in Pittsburgh, so it was Tech Fair that weekend, Carnegie Mellon's Carnival that weekend.
Yeah.
Because I went there, we go every year and Friday after school, and we were all so excited about it. And when the principal called me, he's like, he's been sitting with me for all of recess. They don't do that anymore, but they did at the time. And he said, and he's been really good. And he didn't cry until I said I was calling you, which I take as a mark of like doing what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. I want him to be afraid to disappoint me. Right. I never hit my kids. I will not hit my kids. We know that research is really clear that it's bad for kids. It doesn't teach them the thing you're trying to teach them.
Yes.
But I want him to be really afraid to disappoint me. He comes off the bus that day after school. Do I still get to go to Carnival? And I said, of course not. And he starts crying. His older brother starts crying. The younger kids are crying. And he sees that I tear up a little bit, and he stops crying and he goes, why are you crying? And I said, because I'm really sad not to take you to Carnival. And he says, so change your mind. And I said, do you think it's more important to me to bring you to Carnival or to raise you to be a man of integrity? And his shoulders slump, and he's like, the integrity thing.
Yes. Yeah. I have those little talks with my son because, I was, to everyone, I was my first 10 years of my life almost was in physical abuse. And so, I was also just, raised by all women. And so my 9-year-old son, I'm always like, this is, whether who believes what about, whatever, this is my podcast and my family, but you can say whatever you want. But, I want him to be a man of integrity and treat women a certain way and, and look out for his sisters and respect. I tell him, like, there's stuff where I've said to him that I wouldn't say to my daughters. I'm saying, like, hey, that's my wife. Don't talk to her like that. That's my girl. You know what I mean? Like, that's my queen. You don't mess. And he's like, oh, shoot. Like, I like, or his little sister, I'll stand up to him. I'm like, does that feel fun? Does that feel fun to getting me someone bigger to get in your face? And, I was like, dude, don't use your intimidation and your like, and it makes me feel good. He's kind of like, oh my, but he gets it. And I'm like, I want him to be a good man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, we should teach our kids to speak respectfully to others for a couple of reasons. One is they should learn to speak respectfully to others. Also, they should know what love does and doesn't look like, because what you never want is to walk into their house when they're an adult and hear their partner or someone in their life speaking to them that way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always just, I guess, I don't know why you think about so much. It's just like, maybe because it's the world we live in, it's like, we want you so badly to be good adults. Like, you may be the only chance. Right. Like, there's sometimes we're like,
what's that Star Wars line? You're our last hope.
Yeah, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope.
That's it.
Yeah, there's the Star Wars wall.
I thought you might get the reference.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. You think about, I feel like, has every generation of parent, at least in the last, I would say, in the last, I don't know, 60, 70 years, would that be like modern parents, like our parents and grandparents? I think have we reached an age where we're like, we hope they're going to survive the next 50 years. You know what I mean?
Listen, if you want to look at it in historical perspective, that's a luxury, because our great grandparents hoped that their kids would survive childhood.
Right.
So that's progress.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We'll be okay. Yeah. I guess you're right. But I guess thinking like our parents, thinking like, our parents growing up during, the 50s and 60s and 70s and thinking like, oh boy, I hope the 80s and 90s or 2000s are better for our kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in a lot of ways they are. It is safer to be a kid in America than it has been since 1957. Ever. So, right. I mean, in a lot of ways, things have gotten a lot better. And one of the things that I think that we forget as parents is that the difficulties that we're facing, especially in 2020, the difficulties that we're facing and our kids are facing with back to school questions and everything that's happening, is that this will train them in a way we didn't get to learn.
Right.
What it takes to get through serious upheaval and uncertainty. And our kids have us guiding them and just keeping an eye on them to know if they're not okay while they navigate this. Whereas many of us for the first time are dealing with this level of upheaval and uncertainty, and we're wishing we had somebody to guide us.
Right.
So this is because everyone in their life goes through major upheaval and uncertainty, whether it's job loss or divorce or illness or moving or deployment or whatever it is. We know that our kids will face upheaval and uncertainty on a personal level, on a family level, even on a community level. Yeah. So right now we get to help them. And one of the things that I've been working with parents and educators about is the 2020-2021 school year might not be for major academic advancement, but it could be major mental health strengthening, resilience building, communication, accountability, health awareness. Like, they could learn so many amazing things this year and come out of it stronger people than if we've never experienced this.
All that you just said, like it really, as you said that, it warmed my heart, because it's literally all the topics my wife and I have been focusing on, like having those real conversations about health. And literally, you cannot, if you want to raise intelligent kids and, accountable kids who can say what's right or wrong, or in the world and themselves. I don't know, like, correct me, please. We're telling them, like, what's going on. Black Lives Matter, we're telling our 9-year-old, why people are, our 5-year-old, that people are sick. And, It has been like the closest time ever for our family because we are so in, contact and connected constantly. So it's just, and my wife and I, like, I'm a comedian who says everything, so we're just like that. We talk about it.
Comedians are known for having a lot of filters. So
yeah. I have a lot of filters, but then again, there's not much garbage that comes out. So I'm okay. So
obviously it's all gems.
Yeah, I wait until I'm in front of an audience of adults to swear about my kids. That's about as crazy as I get.
That's a good line.
Yeah, no, that's what like. Okay, sidebar, because we'll just talk in Post-it notes, and I'm on my second coffee now, so it's getting real. Yeah, like I literally tell people, like, when I get hired for, corporate or whatever, you do a lot of public speaking, and I just tell them, they're like, so is it like PG? And I'm like, we're in a room of adults. What? Like, I'm going to come here so I can call my 5-year-old an asshole to you.
And I hope that a group of adults doesn't need parental guidance.
I know. It's always so funny to me when adults are like, can you like not say ass? I'm like, what? Where are you from? Like, why is that? Anyway.
Do you not know what it means? Should I bring pictures?
I know. It's here nor there. But like, what were we talking about? See, Post-it note. And then I lost it.
I think all the stress that parents are feeling about this year and back to school and how it does not have to be as fraught as we're making it. It's important for sure, but like I said when I was talking about why I appreciate your work so much, it's important, but it doesn't have to be quite as serious as we're making it. Right, absolutely.
Like, I never want to take like life too seriously or myself, anything, because it's hard to take something like what I do and like, oh, this and that, and it's cool. And I'm literally a fat dad from Pittsburgh who jokes about my kids. Like, there ain't nothing special about this. You know what I mean? I just didn't want the responsibility of like doctor or pastor. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I get that.
Yeah.
I know because my best friend and she's a national sales director for a toy company, and people will call her flipping out. It was supposed to be a Friday and it's not getting until Monday. And she's like, okay, I want to help you, but I also want to encourage you to take a breath. She'll say, my best friend's a doctor, and when she messes up, people can die. Nobody's going to die if you don't have that end cap on Saturday.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want any of that responsibility. I'm like, how can I still make people laugh and speak in public, but also have no moral responsibility to anybody?
Nobody dies. That's the bar. Nobody dies.
That's what it is. So if you ever want to drop your title, just start being funny in front of your crowds more, and that's it. You'll be fine. No.
For most people, that sounds more terrifying than anything that I could do.
I know. I wanted to ask you about that because one of the things that everybody loves memes and headlines, and but one of the things that that you focus so much now on is resilience. And, when you wrote a thing that says, do stress better, be resilient. And that I kind of laughed at you talking to you before the podcast. Like, I relate to that so well because my whole life has been kind of just finding resilience to better and then better myself based on struggles I've had and just move on. I don't know if that's so, like, I'm like, yes, and yes. But when you talk about that with like, go ahead.
What I wanted to say is that we have accepted in the last number of years in our society this idea that stress is a toxin, that it's poisonous, and it's not actually. It's a tool.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Right. And it can be awful. You can just like exercise. If I told you that walking up one flight of stairs to record this with you today, I got out of breath, you might be too nice to say it because we're Pittsburghers, but you know what I need? I need exercise because exercise, although super unpleasant to experience often, makes your body more fit, right? And makes your body healthier. In the same way, stress, although super unpleasant to experience, actually makes you mentally healthier and more resilient. And just like if I got up and I tried to run an Ironman triathlon, I could die. I'm not ready. People have died doing that, and I could be one of them. In the same way, if I experience too much stress from too many different directions, without enough support, without the tools and the strategies I need, it can be damaging for life. But if I want to be able to handle more 5 years from now, or I want my kids to be able to handle more 5 years from now than they can right now, they've got to train up. And we actually can use stress in our lives, in our employees' lives, in our kids' lives with empathy to get stronger and do the stress better, so that just like if I was training for that marathon, you know, you got to hope that 6 months from now, running a mile wouldn't feel like a big deal. Yeah. But I can tell you that right now, running a mile would feel like I almost died. Right. In that same way, if I train up, the level of stress that right now feels overwhelming would feel like not that big a deal. And I could do it easier and better.
Yeah, I always struggle with that, because I went and got this quote because it's the background of my laptop, because, you know, at one point or another, I tried to be athletic and work out a bunch, but it's over now. Literally, this is like, I'm putting this on the screen. It's one of my favorite quotes ever from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength.
I love that.
I love that. I feel like, because my mom, I told you, you know, I came from abuse, and my mom never was like, whine about it, cry about it, you know, use it and be better. Like, you know, figure it out, you know.
Now, a major plus moving from being kids in the 80s to being kids in the 2010s or 2020s is that we can say to kids, and know we should, go ahead and cry. Yeah. Let me hold you. And now, how are you going to use it? Right? We can have, and we don't feel like having empathy means that we are endorsing a worldview that says that everything's terrible. Right. We shouldn't have rules for our kids' feelings, but we should have rules for their behavior. Right. And for ourselves, there are no limits on our feelings. Let me say that. I want to say that again. So there's no rules. Say that again. There's no rules on feelings. Right. But there are rules about behavior. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I love that. I'm high-fiving and also Baptist approval. Nice. Yeah. I had someone come up to me after a talk, and, you know, as people might have guessed earlier in the conversation, I'm Jewish. And somebody came up to me after a big corporate talk for a whole bunch of power grid companies. And they said, if there had been an altar call, I'd have been up there. And I could tell from his facial expression that this was a compliment, but I did not know what it meant. Yes. Yeah, evangelical. That I totally get that. Yeah, I don't know what that would be the equivalent. It's like, I said thank you. Yeah, was that like, right? Your talk was so inspiring. I want to bar mitzvah myself now. I don't know. Right? Yeah, there's not have a circumcision. No, that's not it. Your speech was so good. I want to get circumcised now. Right, ritual No, that's nobody ever says that. No. But going back to, let's transition from circumcision to kids going to school. Which is actually going to take longer and be more painful. Go ahead. Yeah. No, I thought it was interesting because you've been talking so much. Like I want to laugh with you, and we've done a lot of like giggling and stuff. But like I told my wife, I was like, the last thing I want to hit up Dr. Deb about, Dr. Deb for friends. Is like school. Like what? But you really. I literally, as I'm like digging into your stuff more, I'm like, oh, she's covering this. Like talking about some of the things that kids can do, you know, to prepare for the school year or not the school year. You know what I mean? Like you have like all these resources, and this is hashtag ad. I don't care, because I trust you and I love everything you say and do. So like you kind of like laid out a plan, and it's fascinating. I do, because, you know, I've had some people say to me, well, it might be different where you live than where I live. Here's what I want to say. It's going to be different where I live to where I live, and different where you live to where you live. Meaning there is no one path that any school or any family is going to follow this year. And that actually can be good news, because you're not obligated to know August 15th or September 1st what your whole year is going to look like. Right. You're going to try things. See what works for your kid, what works for your job, what works for your family, what works for your brain space and your bandwidth and your health, and adjust. And that pattern, that strategy of trying something, seeing what works, keep what works, and ditch what doesn't, and try something else, that's resilience. Yeah. What all of us do when we experience change is first we experience loss and distrust and discomfort. And then we remember that even with that change, we have choices. My mom of blessed memory used to say, if you're still breathing, you have options. You may not like any of them, but you have options. And even if you only have options in your attitude or your behavior or your purpose, there are some things you can always control. Right. And so when everything feels out of control, what I did is I created a bundle of resources to help parents with the things that we are most worried about: our kids' mental health, their physical safety, our family's health and safety, our own mental health, screen time, and talking to their teachers and communication, like they're being ready for their social life. I hit these 9 pain points that we all have, and talk about how to frame them for yourself and for your family, no matter what changes around you, no matter what category 5 hurricane of craziness we're caught in for this whole school year. What are you and your family going to try? And when that doesn't work, or when everything shifts, what are you going to do next?
Right. You're absolutely right. And not that I have to say that because it's true. No, like
really nice to hear.
Yeah, no. I know you've been holed up with four teenage boys. I'm sure you hear.
You rarely say you're so right.
Yeah. Deborah, you are absolutely right.
You're so right.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I just hear that all day.
Words to fall asleep by. Mom, you were right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You are right. It's because you see a lot of people, not that, please, I can't even, my heart cannot even stand to even talk about more about what people think about going back to school, whatever. But I think your point is just hitting people where we even start to feel, anxiety about this whole situation, that you would see people, on social media, like, how dare you want to send your kids back, or how, it's really nice that people can sit at home with their kids and teach them school. And we kind of like stepped back and said, it kind of exactly what you were saying, that we forget is that everybody is different, and I explained to my kids how it's so, like, we are so lucky and blessed, those together, lucky and blessed, that we're at a point where we can both be at home with our kids. It sucks. It sucks. Like, I want to go to work, we want to go back to work, but it is what it is, That's a great line to say right now, right?
Oh yeah, that's a whole other thing. But also, we're in this situation of really being able to point out so easily to our kids, you don't even know what you don't know about other people. Right.
And other parents are like, we have to go back to work and we don't know what to do with it. We get that and we empathize with that. And so, like, I'm thankful that, our school districts and other school districts have like options, and it's so helpful when other friends of ours, they're like, nope, school says come back, and that's that. And they're 10 minutes away, so it's hard. Everybody's dealing with that. But like, I appreciate you putting time, and I'm not, I appreciate you putting the time in to have something like that kind of meets everybody where they are. I think the best advice and help to start with is just meeting someone where they are. You know what I mean? Like,
you're an expert in, I'm a parenting expert, right? I'm an expert in my 4 kids. You're an expert in your 3 kids. Everybody's an expert in the kids in their own lives. What I have for people are strategies, because as a family doctor, I take care of hundreds and hundreds of families. So if you're struggling with something, I might know a strategy you haven't tried yet. You'll know if it has a chance of working in your house.
Right.
And so I always try and present a range of strategies, because some wouldn't work for your personality. Some might be great for you, but your fire cat would be like, no.
Yeah.
So you've got to use your expertise and try different things.
Right. No, this is awesome. I want to talk to you more. I feel like we could do a whole podcast, just us, of being silly parents.
That maybe people would want to listen to, but maybe not.
Well, maybe, I don't know. You give so much credence to this that this might be my highest listened or viewed podcast, because they were like, somebody that actually knows what they're talking about. Hey, it only took over 200 episodes to have, someone who actually knows what they're talking about parenting. Because none of my friends have. None. We're all just trying to figure it out. We're all comedians, actors. We're idiots. So I didn't even get a chance to talk to you. Like, I want to let you go because we both literally have to go to work and parenting. Debroah, Dr. G, thank you so much. Friend, this was so fun. I feel like I owe you an hour consult fee. I would love to talk to you again. Thank you so much. Really.
Let's do it again. This has been a blast, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Hey, where can people find, I think it's askdrg.com?
Yeah, that's it. It's really that easy. And there's a contact on there. So if you want the back to school resources or any of the other stuff we talked about, I hope that you'll just Easiest thing is to get on my website, AskDrG.com, or email me. But this is a spelling test because it's DRG, Dr. G, DRG, at ask, spell out the word doctor, DOCTORG.com.
Boom. I'm going to put that on the screen for everybody. I'll make sure it's all in all the show notes. People can find Dr. G. Amazing resource. Very fun doctor friend to know. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, you
Have
know
a
what?
great day, everybody.
Thank you. I tell everybody, conquer your day.
Yes.
I love it. Thanks, Dr. G.
Bye.
Bye.